Welcome to episode 13 of 22 Man Game with Jared and Damon. I'm Jared. That's Damon. It is 9:03 p.m. on Tuesday, October 21st, 2025, coming to you a day after the end of the week 7 of the NFL season, except for the fact that just this time yesterday was actually the start of Seahawks Texans because we all needed that. Damon, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm a little tired. I think Seahawks Texans ended near 1 a.m. So that was a choice by the NFL. Second time they did that. I remember the first one was like Raiders and somebody super late. Those West Coast games. Um, Not a big fan of that because if you're on the East Coast, good luck. But other than that, normal wear and tear from the old work week. I'm super excited for NBA season. Obviously kicked off today. I have Rockets Thunder pulled up on my other monitor over here. Rockets are up by two with 2 minutes left in the game. So a close one down the stretch. And I'm peeking over and watching as we progress. But more importantly, Jared, 24 hours ago, you mentioned Seahawks kickoff. A little less than that, you were in Detroit, Michigan, watching in person the Lions against the Buccaneers. So I want to start off with that right from the top. I want you to talk about your journey. I believe you were with your dad, if I'm not mistaken. Everything that happened at the game, before the game, during the game, the airport. Tell us all the travel story. We want to hear it.
Yeah, not a ton I'd like to report from the airport. It was just sort of a poor performance on the flight out to Detroit. I was a little harried. I opted to not bring a backpack and just do a roller bag. Then I was fumbling for my passport in the TSA line. It's tough. It was tough out there, and looking to recover in the second half. I'd say pretty smooth. Detroit back to Austin, just in terms of airport technique. So that was great. No, the it was really cool for me to go because I was born in Michigan. I was not born in Detroit, but I've obviously seen Detroit in all of the broadcasts. They talk about the city. There's a Detroit is one of those cities that I think has a clear cultural identity, or at least a clear trajectory in the minds of most Americans as, they were booming, and then in '08 there was the crash, and now they're starting to rebuild themselves again. Uh, so it was interesting to get to go experience that as an adult. I'd been when I was young, but I didn't really have the capacity to process anything. My dad and I did essentially like an outdoor escape room. So they give you a kit, you go through the kit, and it directs you to different locations in the city of some kind of prominence or visual interest. So there's a big square, I can't remember the name of it, but it had a monument for the Underground Railroad, which my idiot brain was like, oh, it's a monument to subways and metros. And then I got there and was like, I do teach the history of the United States, so it's a little rough. And they just had a couple other really cool. Obviously, if you've ever watched a Lions game, you'll see the Spirit of Detroit statues right in that same area. The iconic Joe Louis Fisk statue was there as well. And so you have to like look at the statues and the monuments and find clues based on the dates that correspond to the stuff they give you. It was a nice way to sort of have a motivated search through that area, see a little bit more. And it's a really cool area. I was primed. I saw TikTok about like visiting Detroit before I went to Detroit. So they were talking up the murals and the art, but there is a ton of mural work, ton of art. There's this really, I thought, impactful kind of dedicated statue called like Transcendence, I think, but it was all about labor and the history of labor, both in the country and how that connects to Detroit. So you walk on this sort of stone path, and it's got like healthcare access and you know collective bargaining like etched into the ground. So you're walking on the path towards the progress of labor rights with all this sort of iconic imagery. Very, very striking. So really cool, and it was a beautiful day, perfectly sunny. So I know this is more detail than we needed, but of course, getting into Ford Field, going to the game, we got in really early, so we got the like giveaway at the door. That was great. Went to the team store.
What was the
I was able
giveaway?
to pick. What's up?
What was the giveaway?
Oh, it was two like Bud Light sponsored Lions coasters. which is just kind of fun. It's not a game breaker, but it's a nice little thing. They're like a decent quality. They're kind of like this sort of high quality silicone. So not like a bobblehead tier, I would say, but able to pick up a jersey for my girlfriend, a huge Gibbs fan. He changed his number, able to get her a zero Gibbs jersey in the black because it was at the black jersey game, and then obviously something that I didn't fully appreciate was the feeling of being in a stadium where everyone is on your side, and I don't remember how many football games you've gone to, Damon. But watching like the Seahawks or the Chiefs, they'll talk about the decibel level, and you'll see in the background how they'll put up like "get loud" and they'll have the decibel rating for the stadium.
Yeah.
And whenever you're the away team, you're never part of that sound because it's meant to disrupt your offense. But when
Hmm.
you're at home, you are part of that sound. So you feel that pride of making noise, and it's Monday night. The halftime show wasn't great, but they had the wristbands that like flash blue and white that they'll do for when they turn the lights off, kind of in the stadium. Kind of, I think they did one for the quarter transitions. They did it at halftime. Really cool to be part of that. Um, I have two ethical takeaways and two unethical takeaways from this game and the viewing experience. I'm going to run through them super fast. Ethical takeaway: we were on to our defensive backs, defensive backs, defensive backs. This was backup, backup, backup territory. We spent our top two picks last year on secondary players, both not available. Backup Khalil Dorsey not available. Top signing DJ Reed not available. Other free agent Avonte Maddox not available. And so Mr. Whiteside himself, Nick Whiteside, Eric Hallett, I want to say Thomas Harper. Maybe I'm mixing them up with another one of our safeties because it was again truly like the no-name guys come out, play a fantastic game on defense. I've seen it mentioned a couple places that it was the Legion of Whom defense, which I thought was a
That's a good
great
one.
nickname. And so that was great. That was ethical. Unethical, the officiating was garbage, start to finish. Um, I know you were recording last night, but Addie was watching the game, and the refs you suck chant was audible for
Mm,
listeners to the Monday night broadcast. I don't know if I
classic.
participated, but it was loud. It was
You
thumping.
don't know if you participated anyway? You don't
I can't
remember?
remember if I know that I tried to refrain from booing the refs too much because it's a hard job, but
Yeah.
there were a few times, specifically, in fact, Derek Barnes, fans of the pod will know, I love 55. He had a killer game last night to the point where my
Hmm.
Uber driver this morning was talking about our defense and brought up Barnes, which no one thinks about Barnes, so that was great. He had a forced fumble that didn't count because the play was ruled dead needlessly early. That got me pretty upset. A few other just questionable calls, picked up flags. A few ended up going our way, but a few went the other way early, so that was annoying. Um, I guess another ethical, here's my ethical take. I just think Detroit is a football city, and I think it's very cool to be in a sports town that is truly a sports town. I've been to a few other big cities, places like, New York. I've been to Chicago. Of course, these cities love their teams, but when you have multiple teams and when you're such a big city with so many different aspects to your identity, Detroit's a little bit smaller. There were murals everywhere for all four major sports teams. The way it was organized, you had Ford Field, the Lions Stadium right next to Comerica Park, which is where they play baseball, and then Little Caesars Arena for basketball was right in that area. So that was really awesome. Again, our Uber driver was talking Lions. Our first Uber driver into the city was talking Lions. It was just a constant like love for this team. Um, my last unethical thing, though, fans who root against a team that's doing well just because they have a bad play or a bad moment, or who nag on one player because they're not doing as well as they theoretically could. Super annoying. There was one two rows behind us who was just screaming at Jared Goff to throw better all game, and I get it. Being an upset fan is great. If your team's bad, we need that accountability. Our team's good. Don't complain about every little thing. Be grateful for the game they're giving you, especially when we ultimately smother the Bucks. It was what, 2027-9. So
24.
anyway, 24-9. Sorry, I couldn't remember if the field goal put us up to 24-27, but yeah, I know that was a ramble. I apologize. Just wanted to give my look a little bit at the city and also the game. Definitely an experience I'll never forget. I think our hope is to maybe go back again next year. And I think it should be a goal of us on the pod to at least go to like a Rockets Pistons or Spurs Pistons, something that's local, and watch some ball because it truly is. It's a one of a kind of experience. So it was great.
Yeah, I have a lot. I have a lot of takeaways from your story. My first takeaway is about travel. Let me introduce you to this bad boy right here. You know what this is? You have any idea what this is?
Um, I want to know. Tell me.
Yeah. For my audio listeners, you may need to throw the visual on for this, and you get wildly impressed. This,
Unzipping a gray bag, small.
yes, turns into a duffel bag and is what I use
Wow.
to travel everywhere because it counts as a, what is it, personal item on airlines. You don't have to pay for it. And it fits a lot. And you can really shove it into that personal item thing. And then, of course, I'm a bad person. So when I get on the plane, I throw it overhead, not at my feet, because I'm 6'3" and I need all the leg room I could possibly afford. So that's my, my first bit of advice to you. I hate rolling bags. I'm not a huge backpack guy either. The duffel bag is kind of an in between,
Mm.
and I don't have to pay for it, but it's also big enough that I can bring all the things I need for a, 3, 4 day trip.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It was a bit of an audible on the roller bag. The roller bag wasn't super to blame. I think I was just sort of rushing out the door. I generally like the backpack roller combo. I ended up checking my bag both times at the gate, so that was nice. But yeah, I mean, a good duffel, is I brought a duffel to the Grand Canyon, and that was more than anything I needed. So, good take on the duff for sure.
Yes, thank you.
Duffel bag companies sponsor ethical ball.
I
We
couldn't
love
name
your
a
product.
single one, but yes, please.
Yeah, the legendary mentioned by DU Full.
There you
Um,
go.
yeah, one of
Like
the
that
great
from you.
bag technicians.
My second takeaway, a name you did not mention, Amik Robertson. Had the punch out fumble. That was very cool, very nice to see. I know he's had some kind of not great games coming up in the secondary, and he's kind of like the first guy up when all the other guys are out now. But he played fine, I think. Um, so I wanted to say that. And I had something else that I don't remember. Oh, you talked about the fan. Yeah, I've never been a fan that boos my own players, really. Like it's just one, do you think they're going to hear you?
Right.
Because they're not. And two, it doesn't help obviously like, piling on and being negative in a bad situation is not typically the thing that's going to turn it around. Usually you need like support and such. But that is kind of the toxic masculinity aspect, I think, that we have addressed many times on this program. So yeah, don't do that. Oh, and to answer your other thing about games I've been to, I've definitely been to way more basketball games than football games. One, they're more affordable.
Mhm.
Two, I can actually see what's going on regardless of where I'm sitting, which
Yeah.
is quite nice. Football stadiums are so large. The last football game I went to, I've talked about this before, was Deshaun Watson's return to
That's
Houston after
right.
being traded to the Browns. And let me tell you, the crowd was really getting all in on those boos. So I felt a part of that. I felt that you were
Oh
talking
no,
about that.
I would boo with some comfort,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. That's a different situation. But yeah, I definitely was a part of that as like a pseudo Texans fan, being the hometown team at the moment. Um, Before that, it had been a long time since I'd been to a football game. The last one I can remember, I went to a Falcons Saints game in Atlanta when Michael Vick was their quarterback. So
Wow.
yeah, that
At
was
some point, we should maybe see if we can get ahead of like even just a Texans game against another team. I feel like it'd be kind of fun to go. And I will recognize also, it is a great privilege to get to go to these games. We had excellent seats, and I am very fortunate and very thankful for that. Um, I think that is one problem with football as compared to so many other sports. It is probably, I'd say, the least accessible
mhm,
to go casually. I mean, you
so
can't get a
expensive.
football ticket casually at the pro level for sure. Whereas like we had talked about going to a basketball game last year, and if we hadn't booked at the last second, we probably could have gotten those tickets early in the
Yeah.
season for like $15 a person or something ridiculous. So
By the
um,
way, Rockets Thunder going to overtime. Tied
I've been
104-104.
clicking because I'm feeling it for you. So uh,
Try
I
not to
can
look over
vamp
too
as long as
much.
you need. Um,
Um, Yeah, and yeah, basketball games. I mentioned this too on the other pod. There was a couple years ago when I worked for a school district that was partnered with the Rockets, and this is when the Rockets were in the middle of their rebuild. They're quite bad, and I think 20 to 25 games they just gave free tickets, and I went to all of them. So I went to a ton of Rockets games that year, more that year than I have in my entire life. And yes, I do get a part of the crowd stuff. I think obviously basketball arenas are much smaller than football stadiums, and the Rockets were a bad team, so we did not have quite the fanfare as the Lions have now. But definitely get that energy. I would love to be a part of a big football stadium for a good team. That would feel nice. So I'm glad you got to experience that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely think. I definitely think it is one of kind of experience. I do want to move us along. I'm going to briefly just commenting on the game as a whole. I know we already mentioned the defense and the way they played. Lions offense, I would say struggling through the air more or less. A lot of kind of three and outs or maybe, one first down kind of drives. Jahmyr Gibbs, however, had one of the best games I've seen from someone in a Lions uniform on offense. He put up over 210 yards of scrimmage total, including a 72-yard rushing touchdown, maybe 78. Maybe I got that mixed up in my head. But watching him, seeing it was a single high look, so there's one safety in the back to prevent the big play, and just knowing he had the room to angle around the safety, it was electric to watch that one live. And when he housed that one, um, it was awesome. It was one of the cooler
Yeah.
plays I've seen live for sure. And he scored the most fantasy points, I believe, at the most total yards from scrimmage at least since Calvin Johnson in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. He saved my week in fantasy. The Bucs looked discombobulated all night. Uh, Baker looked inaccurate. Mike Evans, unfortunately, out for most of the rest of the season with a broken clavicle after falling strangely, making a reception. The ball squirted out. He had a concussion. He kind of laid motionless for a while, and then broken clavicle news comes out later. So
Yeah, he was
unfortunate for
apparently
the Bucs.
unconscious for a little bit there.
It was scary because you could tell he wasn't moving, and eventually you see him kind of like kicking his leg up, and you're like, okay, he's conscious, he's there, but um, definitely was holding my breath, and it's a shame because Mike Evans is one of the most fun players to track his career just because of the 1,000-yard season record, and that appears to have been snatched away by injury now.
Yeah, unfortunate. Hope he comes back, if at all this year, healthy next year. Talked about it before. Galveston, ball higher, where I also went to high school, so it matters just a little bit more to me than the average NFL player.
Yeah. And yeah, it's definitely a shame. He's also on my fantasy team, which is not important emotionally, but it is a bit of a disappointment for me there. But either way, I think we should roll on and talk about these kind of news items here. Want to give them a little space before we jump into the wheel games, both of which I think were kind of miserable games. So maybe not too much to say in those, and we can make up some time. Why don't
Yeah.
you tell us about this Barry Sanders note you made? I was interested by the story behind this.
Yeah, so last year, Barry Sanders had a heart attack that he did not know was a heart attack at the time. Back in 2024, it was kind of later found out when he was describing the symptoms, stuff that it was in fact a heart attack. And when that happened, I think he kind of got like a life thing. Oh, life is a real thing, huh? And he's been spending more time kind of with the Lions organization and specifically around the backfield of Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. And I think he's been showing up to games more. He's been more present at the practice facility. And Gibbs and Monty just kind of talked about how like his presence, obviously being an all-time great and all-time Lions great too, of course, both of those things. I would say what he's probably a top 3 to 5 back of all time, a top two Lion of all time. Like
Hmm.
he's up there, right? And they basically said when he's here, it just motivates us to an extreme level because, they've already seen such greatness in an organization that, has had a lot of uninspiring play over the years, and he has obviously been a standout player in that regard. And when you mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs last night, you could see it. You could see that motivation. I dare not say he is Barry Sanders, right? Obviously, but in terms of the elusiveness and the speed and that kind of big play potential, it's there, and I'm glad they're using it as motivation. Use what you can.
Yeah, Barry and Jahmyr through the same number of games have the same number of touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, definitely not saying apples to apples, but as someone who isn't necessarily affected by it now as directly, but who had a heart condition at birth, I always love to see advocacy for cardiovascular health. And Barry was at the game last night, so definitely had to help provide some of that juice. And he's been a great ambassador to the team. Clearly loves the Lions and is I think there are not too many cases, but there are some cases of legends in the sport, in any sport, who are like, hey, don't touch my records. I was the best in my generation, whatever. He has fully been behind Gibbs and Montgomery both. And I think that's what you want to see from an ambassador for the team. Uh, with that said, let's jump on to another piece of non on the field related news, and we can come back to the unretirement maybe at the end of this list here. Uh, I want to take this news about Demaryius Thomas here. Late wide receiver Demaryius Thomas inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame in his first year of eligibility prior to the Broncos game against the Giants. And the Broncos showed out in that game. We'll get to that later. Uh, Thomas was discovered dead in his home in 2021, and the cause of death was determined to be a seizure linked to both his football injuries and a 2019 car crash. His brain was donated to Boston College. He was diagnosed with CTE posthumously, as CTE can only be truly diagnosed posthumously, and is one of 345 NFL players out of 376 studied by Boston College to be diagnosed posthumously with CTE. Following his passing, when the Broncos played the Lions back in 2021, they lined 10 players up on the field and left a wide receiver off. They took a delay of game penalty for bringing out that formation in honor of Demaryius Thomas. The penalty was declined as sort of a tribute to him. So someone, especially in the years that we were watching in their Super Bowl years in the 20 teens, Demaryius Thomas was just one of those guys for Denver, a major contributor. And so it's great to see him be honored. It's a shame he can't be here to see it. But I remember at the time of his passing, so many people remembering and honoring the kind of player he was on and off the field. And so great to provide a tribute to him, and sad to think about the consequences of football once again.
Yeah, he was one of those players for me that I feel like always kind of went under the radar. This was right in my kind of like original heyday of watching football, kind of
Mhm.
late high school, early college years for me, before I went dark for a couple of years after getting back into it. And I did always appreciate him. I believe if I'm not mistaken, he's like number two franchise leader in passing or receiving yards rather, excuse me.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's up there. Cortland Sutton was the empty player on the field, who is obviously still there as a Broncos receiver. So um, that is worth noting. And yeah, it was alumni weekend, so that's why they decided to use this as the game to honor him. There were apparently 170 former Broncos, 40 of which were from that Super Bowl team he was on with Peyton Manning when they beat the Panthers about 10 years ago now. So.
Yeah, that was no, that's it's great to see so many I mean, obviously a lot of them are probably there to celebrate being alumni, but especially to see 40 of his teammates there. It's a beautiful way to pay tribute to him. Um, that Super Bowl was, if I recall, just a domination by the Broncos after they kind of got dominated by the Seahawks the year before. So very cool to see
It was a
that.
defensive domination. Von Miller won MVP.
Wow. I mean, you don't see that too often, but I think I recall that was the Cam not diving for the fumble Super Bowl,
Yes.
and that's kind of
Yes.
stuck to his legacy as well. Do you want to tell us about Jonnu Smith? I didn't see this story, but it's really cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you about Jonnu Smith. So Steelers tight end Jonnu Smith was named a Week 7 NFLPA Community MVP for visiting his older brother Wayne Smith and about 100 other inmates. So when I was reading through the story, basically Jonnu Smith has not had a lot of contact with his brother over the years. He was convicted of third-degree murder over 15 years ago. And for what I read, it was his role in a street fight in which a gun went off and somebody died. So I don't know what that means exactly for him and his responsibility in that situation. I'm not sure if he was the firer or if he was the instigator of some sort. I have no idea. And he hasn't got to watch Jonnu a lot over the years, of course, being in Miami and then being in Atlanta. He's been in Pennsylvania this whole time. And of course, Jonnu just got traded there to the Steelers this offseason, so he's got to watch every game so far. And Jonnu brought like six teammates. I know Fryermuth was one of them, a fellow tight end, to kind of visit the people and talk to them about their lives and stuff like that, and just kind of have a connection, which I thought was interesting. To me personally, for the listener, if they don't know, my father has been incarcerated basically my entire life. So that is kind of a spot for me that I see stories like this. I'm like, oh, that's touching. Now, I cannot speak to the character of his brother and the charges against him. I don't know, who he is as a human being, but I just thought it was cool that he was kind of breaching that connection because I feel like, part of the whole prison thing is like you're just isolated from the outside world. So recognizing that people in prison are still human beings for like professional athletes is a nice thing to see, assuming they're not all like the worst people on earth.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's just, here's the thing, right? Even if 15 years ago he was directly and actively responsible, 15 years is such a long time. Um, and I think it is great to see players open a conversation and a dialogue about how we treat people behind bars and starting conversations about rehabilitation versus punishment, recognizing people's capacity to change. Seems like part of the mission of that as well. Obviously, you were more informed on this than I was. This is new to me, but I think it's great. They're giving this platform. I remember when the Lions were on Hard Knocks. One of the stories they featured was Craig Reynolds, whose older brother was incarcerated, and they showed him FaceTiming his older brother, who was just encouraging him to keep playing, and so they had a strong relationship. And so, um, yeah, this was a really cool story. I'm glad you put it here for us to discuss.
Yes, sirree. Let's talk about a story that is a little less cool, I would say. But
Yeah, it's bad.
off,
It's a really disappointing story. Yeah.
yeah. Former Bucks and Raiders running back Doug Martin passed away this past Saturday at age 36. According to his family, he had a lot of issues with mental health. They were kind of talking to him about getting proper help and medication and all that, and he was feeling very overwhelmed by the situation, kind of delirious is how they described it, and he left the house that they were in. This was the middle of the night. He went down to a neighbor's house, a couple doors down, and then they called the police because they thought it was a break-in. So the police came and arrested him. He kind of showed some resistance, and then at some point became unresponsive during police custody and passed away before I think reaching a hospital. So there was a lot of physical and mental issues. It sounds like the exact autopsy and things like that haven't come out yet because this just happened pretty recently. But obviously, very sad to read another case of what probably sounds like a football related mental health issue, whether it's CTE or something else. And it's unfortunate because this is another player that in my heyday of watching football is like, yeah, I remember that guy. And not saying that makes him more important, but it just makes the story kind of have a little more impact when you can kind of associate the name with like, oh yes, an actual memory I have of that person. Um, so yeah, just another kind of tragic, unfortunate thing here.
Yeah, I believe the officers responsible for the arrest were placed on paid administrative leave or suspended. I believe, yeah, I guess those are the same thing, but um, definitely a story that has an intersection with a lot of different cultural conversations and also, of course, conversations about the health and longevity that comes from playing football or lack thereof. So Don't want to speculate too much without having more information, but definitely tragic to see this. And yeah, another player who, it's a name you recognize. And I imagine that, we're at a point where now we've seen players play who are now that kind of like most recent generation of former players. So, unfortunately, I feel like there are multiple reported deaths per year former football players. And granted, they're huge rosters. Maybe that contributes to it, but that news is always difficult to hear, and then to place it in the context of memory is challenging. So hopefully we get some clarity, and we can continue to advance the conversation as a culture about how to make football safer. Uh, Ready to pivot to the sport.
Yes. Are we going to
All right.
start with the unretiring?
Let us start with the unretiring, and I'll take it so you can have focus on the last 20 seconds of overtime. In what appears to be a nail biter, Brandon Graham, Philadelphia Eagles legend, has announced unretirement, and he's going to return to the Eagles for a 16th season, the longest tenured Eagle in franchise history, extending that streak. Signing on with the team again. This coming off the heels of Za'Darius Smith's retirement. Probably good for them to add that edge depth. Obviously, signing Za'Darius Smith signals they believed they needed it. This is nice for Brandon Graham. He can kind of step away from training camp, miss some of the early games of the season, but still contribute meaningfully to the season overall. So yeah, I think a solid signing for them and an unsurprising move, all things considered, knowing what they were looking for their roster.
Do you think he was just bored? I think he was just like, oh man, maybe I do need to play football a little bit longer. Because he just retired after the Super Bowl, right? He was like, yeah, it's a good season to call it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wonder, I do wonder. Yeah, part of it is probably not being able to recognize how much you're in football shape, and then also it seems like for some players, there's different parts of the game that push them away. I don't know. I feel like the ability to skip training camp, say, hey, I'm going to grind for, if we make it to the Super Bowl, it's 4 months, right? Um, Almost to the day. And then you can walk away from that. So yeah, I think he probably was just like, hey, I miss being in there with the guys. You're watching them on TV. You're probably thinking about it all the time. Why not go back?
Very fair. Yeah, we'll see how the Eagles look. We'll talk about their game a little bit later. But first, we got to do our wheel games, our Week 7 wheel games. That's right. We had Panthers at Jets and we had Rams at Jags in London. Great 2 game slate here. Jared, why don't you kick us off with the might that was Panthers at Jets?
Damon, I'm going to make a pitch to you.
Okay.
My wheel team this week was the Panthers.
Yeah.
What if we just said it was the Jets? What if we just said my
You just
wheel
want to
team was
knock
the
the you just
Jets?
want to knock the Jets out.
Well, I mean, listen, the Jets are 0-7. I would be
You,
shocked if they were playing relevant football. Um, the Panthers, meanwhile, are 4-3, and have some real promise to compete for a wild card in the NFC right now.
okay.
Which one would I rather watch in December? Probably the Panthers.
So
Um,
I've opened the wheel and made the change. I've put the Panthers back and taken the Jets off. I've accepted your request, I guess, is how you could phrase it.
I love to hear it because I wanted to watch the Panthers. I wasn't able to, unfortunately, watch as much of this game as I'd hoped. I caught much of the first half. I actually, funny story, was on the plane, live TV, thanks Delta. I saw this was the only game in the like main networks that I could see, and I went, "Oh my God, I got to watch this thing." And then I didn't remember until after I woke up from the hour nap that I took immediately after takeoff that was my game this week. And by then it was already Commanders Cowboys. So I did go back. I did go back and watch when I was kind of tuning out. It was 10-3, so that was the majority of the points in the Panthers road win over the Jets, 13-6. The Jets defense made some nice stops. Unfortunately, it looked like Sauce Gardner out with a concussion at some point during this game, which definitely limits some of their potential there. J2 injured his knee. That's defensive tackle for the Jets, as well as an injury to Kene Nwangwu, running back for the Jets, leaving with a concussion as well. So Jets leave a little more banged up and less hopeful. Uh, Jets quarterback Justin Fields, one of our moves of the offseason, benched at halftime after leading
Injured
the team.
his pride and my pride.
Yeah, he's not looking very good right now, believe it or not. Tyrod Taylor not able to get much more out of the offense, which is a shame because from what I saw, it didn't look like the Panthers were really shooting themselves in the foot. It really looked like the Jets were doing a decent job. But then their offense, especially guard John Simpson, took two bad penalties. I mean, this team needs every yard. I want to say it was the first Jets offensive drive where they started with good field position, got into like somewhat long field goal range, went for it on fourth, didn't get it. And this team needs every single freaking point it can get. Um, Brees Hall looked briefly banged up. I think he's okay, but he's one of those players who has some real juice. I would love to maybe see him on a team that has a little more competitive aspiration, right? If I'm maybe the Chargers, I'm seeing what I can give to bring Brees Hall over. 11 rushes for 38 yards, but I don't know how much of that can really go on his shoulders, just considering the state of the offense around him. Tyler Johnson, the leading receiver for the Jets, with um, Garrett Wilson out, so that's always good. It's double overtime. Let's go Rockets Thunder. Uh, it's just been an
Controversial no call here at the end, and the Thunder, Mark Daigneault, Thunder coach, very irate about it. Came onto the court yelling at a ref.
is this the first game of the season?
The first game of the season.
Wow, this is hey, NBA ratings, cha-ching, baby. Um, Sorry to distract from the Jets. I know we all want to talk about it. Couple quick Panthers observations. They were splitting the backfield between Dowdle and Hubbard. Dowdle looks like a weapon, man. He finishes with 17 carries for 79 yards. That's 4.6 per carry. Didn't break a huge one, but you could tell the guy just knew how to move. Very impressed by him overall. And Hubbard was doing some things as well. Granted, his 14 carries went for only 31 yards, 2.2 a touch. A nice game as well for Xavier Legette, late first rounder for Carolina, who traded into the back of the first round last year to select him. Put up 9 receptions for 92 yards. Hopefully something that they can keep going and get him involved alongside Tet McMillan in the receiving core. So the Panthers obviously didn't put up a ton of points, but had some bright spots. What did Jets owner Woody Johnson say about the Jets today? That is a good question. Here's a quote from CBS about his team. He said, "I see what you see, but I see more hope than you do. You can't win with hope, but it helps." Um, doesn't necessarily help them win right now. Yeah. He
A
also
great
said,
quote.
"I do believe in Aaron. If I were a player, I'd respond to him because he's the real deal." Um, and regarding Fields, he made a few remarks. He said, "quote, if we could complete a pass, it would look good," when discussing the team. And
What a
he
great
also said
quote.
it's hard when you have a quarterback with a rating that he has the ability, but something is just not jiving. But if you look at any head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results if you go across the league. You have to play consistently at that position, and that's what we're going to try to do for the remainder of the season. And 1 week after giving some steam behind Fields, I heard on one of the shows I was listening to, I want to say it was Rich Eisen's show, per Rich Cimini, a New York reporter, that Tyrod Taylor likely to take over this week for the Jets. I think you have to do it. I think if nothing else at this point, you're evaluating the offensive staff, the offensive line, the weapons that you want to keep after this year. And by swapping out the quarterback, maybe you get more consistent data. Taylor was slinging it against the Bucs when I got to watch the Jets that other time this year. They actually looked like a real football team. And I think they just need to collect information on what's working, what's not. Is it the coach? Is it the quarterback? Is it the infrastructure around the quarterback? My guess is it's some combination of all three. I don't know how much I'm quite ready to put on Glenn yet, but if we don't see a win sooner than later, I'm going to be ready to sort of put the knife in the ground. I have nothing more to say about Jets Panthers. Any thoughts you have, I am all ears for. Otherwise, let's move on from this dreadful, dreadful game.
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick. Sad about Justin Fields. I feel like we see the talent, we see flashes, right? He had a couple great games this year, but then he has a couple of really, really bad games. So, probably going to end up a backup, I would imagine, in the near future at, after this year or whenever the Jets move on from him. Don't imagine he'll get another shot at a starting job, anytime soon. Bryce Young went out with an injury, I think, in the third quarter. Andy Dalton finished the game out. I'm not sure the nature of the injury. I think it was calf, hamstring, something like that. I watched him limp to the locker room, so we'll see how he's looking for weeks coming on. You mentioned Xavier Legette having a big game. I think that was in part to Sauce Gardner being on Tedero and McMillan most of the game prior to exiting with that concussion. And that kind of happens with the Jets. The secondary receivers against them do a little better because Sauce Gardner is that good at corner. And yeah, I am feel bad for Aaron Glenn. I feel like
Yeah.
he's probably not the greatest coach in the world. He's a first year head coach. But I feel like, when you're set up with a roster like this and a construction like this, um, the results, even if it was a 2-4 team instead of an 0-6 team, would probably look equally not promising.
Yeah, I will shout out Preston, our Uber driver this morning, made a great point about Justin Fields, which is that he is bad at choosing teams to go to by going to two defensive minded head coaches in Mike Tomlin and Aaron Glenn instead of going out west. And when he said that, the thought that came to mind was not Sean McVay, but would Kevin O'Connell love to have Justin Fields right now? Because if he can truly coach up anybody and you can get somewhere close to the best Justin Fields we've seen out of Minnesota, does that look a little bit better than what we're getting from Carson Wentz? I don't know. Uh, but all that said, let's hear about London's electric matchup between the Rams and the Jags. This one was a close game.
Yeah, I'm glad that I've watched a fair amount of Jaguars this year. Dom makes fun of the way I see Jaguars because I guess it's Jaguars, but that just sounds so strange to me. So I'm gonna keep putting the I in there. I know it's not there, but I gotta do it.
I think in London they're the Jaguars for sure.
There you go. Thank you. I don't know why I do that. He pointed out and I can't get over it. Yeah, I'm glad I watched them though. Previously this game, one because of that guy that keeps commenting on that one short from months ago, and two because I think that's an interesting team, and three because this game was not good. So it was at 8:30 a.m. I was not awake. I had to go back and kind of comb through the footage and get what I could, useful information wise and such. And this is what I can tell you. The Rams won 35-7. It wasn't even like this crazy offensive showdown either. In fact, I can give you some stats here. The Jags had more total yards, more plays run than the Rams, yet they lost by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
um, how does this happen, you ask? Well, Jags gave up 7 sacks, Rams gave up zero. That'll make it a little tougher for you when you have that big of a sack differential. Um, Trevor Lawrence, very, very, very inefficient. Under 50% pass completion, 23 for 48. That's yikes. That's not great, obviously. And then I did want to talk a little bit about the usage of Travis Hunter. Played 87% of snaps on offense. So big time receiver, barely played on defense, and I think that will be the case going forward because Brian Thomas Jr. did leave this game with a shoulder injury. Not sure how long that's going to keep him out, but Travis Hunter had easily the best offensive game of his career. Caught most catches, passing yards, had a touchdown for the Jags. So I wonder if he'll continue to kind of show up as kind of a primary option now. If eventually, him and Brian Thomas are going to be a 1 and 2, or if is it going to be more like a 1A, 1B type situation? Not a lot gleaned from that game for them. I know they had a couple defensive injuries too, like Devin Lloyd, who had that pick six against Mahomes a couple weeks ago, was out for this game. So they were missing a couple guys on that side of the ball, and I'm sure that didn't help. But the Rams were missing, Puka Nacua, like one of the best receivers in the NFL. Devontae Adams had 3 touchdowns on 5 catches. They just couldn't do anything about that guy. Yeah, ultimately, I think just a tough week for the Jags with the traveling. I think the Rams and kind of the veteran, leadership with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, I think kind of just knew what to do to win a game against a team that was a little down on their luck in the Jags. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. going into this 3 week stretch where they had to deal with the Chiefs, in which they won that game, the Seahawks last week when they lost, and then now the Rams. Three actual good teams after their hot start, and now it seems they've simmered down, cooled off a little bit. Curious to see how they bounce back. They're going into bye this week, so we'll see what they look like following that. Still don't know if Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback or not. We'll find out one day.
Yeah, I will say if you said the Jaguars came out of that stretch 1-2, but played three tight games, I'd feel a lot better. I was packing and watching the second half of this game. The third quarter was brutal for the Jaguars. They would get momentum, then it would go to a fourth down, and they'd try to convert, and they just couldn't. The defense pretty much held the Rams scoreless for that third quarter as the offense just continually sputtered, couldn't get themselves back in the game, and then with a couple late scores, they ran away with it. I believe Stafford now with the record are tied for the record of most passing touchdowns in the international series. So it ended
Oh
up
boy.
being, oh boy, ended up being a high scoring one for the Rams, I think in part just because the Jaguars offensively couldn't take advantage as much as it was, any sort of defensive collapse. So I am not as optimistic about the Jaguars as I was 2 weeks ago for sure.
Yeah, and we'll see how they bounce back, especially when another team in their division that we'll get to has been absolutely on fire and cannot stop.
100%. Let's hop into the relevant games and start with Thursday night's banger. Bengals, Steelers, the beat up Bengals starting Joe Flacco in his second game come out on top over the division leading Steelers 33-31 in a season saving result. And they did it without tight end Mike Gesicki, who was placed on IR due to an injured pectoral. Damon, what stuck out to you about this game?
Tell you what stuck out to me in my fantasy league in which I traded Bijan Robinson for Ja'Marr Chase and Travis Etienne after my team got off to a struggling start. Ja'Marr Chase's 23 targets stuck out to me, 16 catches. Joe Flacco is like, my plan is just to throw the ball at this guy a lot, I think. And it worked out. He ended up having a fantastic game. So I was very happy to see that, obviously. And that seems to be the plan going forward. T. Higgins had a fine game too. Chase Brown still out looking great in the backfield. And the end of this game was wild. Aaron Rodgers had a vintage kind of moment, rolled out of the pocket and delivered this dart to Pat Freiermuth down the field. He scored a touchdown with really low time. I don't remember the exact time, but it was like under 2 minutes for sure. And then Joe Flacco delivered a couple of nice passes to get him in field goal range and get the kick that ultimately won them this game. More of a shootout than I expected between these two teams. I think, if you looked at this matchup preseason, it would have been more interesting in your head, but this ended up being pretty fun either way. And Jalen Ramsey, thank you for making my Minka Fitzpatrick take look a little bit better this week because he was on Ja'Marr Chase most of this game. He was getting absolutely torched.
Yeah, this was just a surprisingly fun, gutsy game from Joe Flacco that created a lot of excitement out of a game that looked a little bit sleepy. Especially we talked about when we tier listed divisions. We are not like as high on the Steelers as a product, so
Hmm.
they actually turned in a game that I just thought was really fun and entertaining. Spoiler alert: Bengals are hosting the Jets next week, so this may have been a good time to get a win, have a chance to maybe build some momentum and keep their season afloat for Joe Burrow's potential return in December. Um,
When he comes back, who do they start? Joe Burrow or Joe Flacco?
I think you just run just two QBs in the backfield every play, and you have Joe Flacco do a few quarterback keepers to just keep everyone on their
He
toes.
he had a scramble for a first down late in this game, and it was insane.
Yeah, he was an unexpected dog in more ways than one on the field, and I honestly think if the Bengals had lost this game, I was ready to be done with them for the season. But they have kept themselves relevant just a little bit longer. Speaking of teams that kept themselves relevant, I had heard some awful stats about teams that lose three straight after Super Bowl Very few of them getting back to the playoffs or winning a playoff game, anything of that nature. Eagles avoid that fate with a 28-22 win over Eagles legend Carson Wentz in Minnesota. This was huge for them to get back on track after two straight losses where the air seemed completely out of the team and the drama that had surrounded them when they were winning, chewing into them like piranhas as they were losing. Uh, After the game, I hadn't seen this. Vikings announced that quarterback Carson Wentz will start on Thursday against the Chargers. Still no J.J. McCarthy, but with running back Aaron Jones to return from IR, maybe they can put a more balanced offense around Carson while we wait for their 2024 rookie to finally take the field on a consistent basis. What are your takeaways from this game, Damon?
Yeah, and quick note, I think they're designated Aaron Jones to return. If I'm not mistaken, that means they open a 3 week window, so he might not come back this week, but now he's in that 3 week window. My takeaways for this game: the Eagles' passing offense lives. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith both had great games. Devontae Smith even more so. They were getting all kind of downfield plays. Jalen Hurts looked really, really good in this game, especially as a passer, which is not something you really talk about when you think about Jalen Hurts. I think people typically think about the rushing ability. So a lot of deep balls down the field, burning the Viking secondary that has been very good this year. So that was surprising to me. And also, I don't know if you saw this, the Vikings had a tush push preventer. Um, did you see
Oh, I
this?
did see this.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they put in a defensive tackle who basically hasn't played at all this season, and they just laid him flat horizontally on the ground in front of the center in order to kind of prevent that forward momentum with the tush push. And I got to shout out Brian Flores, somebody that I have a lot of respect for. I thought his situation back in Miami was handled very poorly by that team and by the league, and he ended up suing them for it. And I'm glad that he is on a very relevant roster now and not on Miami because, oh boy, that's a roster we'll talk a little bit about later as we blow through the games that were horrible. And I'm glad he came up with that idea. I wonder if we'll see it enforced around the league. And I imagine this will probably be the last year of the tush push. I feel like people are getting pretty sick of it already.
I saw that Jason Kelsey at some point tweeted that he was like, it's cool, people are trying to get creative and stuff. I It seemed like it didn't necessarily work, but I wonder if it's going to just spawn a few more unusual formations. And I think that's kind of fun. Um, I think the only way the tush push will get banned for sure is if someone gets hurt defending the play in an unorthodox way. I think that would be the thing that pushes it over the top. Like, oh, he was laying down, then he got trampled, then it resulted in XYZ injury. Okay, now there's a safety risk. Now we can get rid of it. I just don't know if you can fully justify getting rid of it just for football reasons, but I
If
suppose
I'm
we'll
not
see.
mistaken, I think it's the owners that make that vote, and I feel like it was close this last offseason. I feel like people are
Yeah.
just already more sick of it. And Jalen Hurts, credit to him, he's the only one in the league that can pull it off. Other teams have tried, and it just doesn't work because it takes a very strong quarterback to do it, and he has been that quarterback. I think the biggest issue for me as a fan is it's just not fun to watch. It's not fun to watch the tush push on multiple 1 yard plays during a game. I just don't care.
Yeah, I think
Especially when you have the
it's
highest paid running back in the league in your backfield and he's not getting a ton of run this season.
can the defense push the defensive tackles? Like, is that what you do? Is you just get your linebackers to run up and push
The counter
on
tush push.
counter tush push? I think the problem is probably a lot of the most effective ways to defend the tush push open you so obviously to a counterattack behind the line, right? Because if it's a fake tush push and they just boop it over the line and then they've got no one there because they're all trying to push up on the point, then it's going to be pretty brutal. So I guess TBD on that. This next game was one of the craziest games of all time, and I think you should take us through it. I'll leave it to you to announce the score and the circumstances there. I know you're on pins and needles with this basketball game, but
Yeah, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander just drew a foul with 2 seconds left on KD and fouled him out. Hit the first free throw. Now it's tied 124-124. He has another free throw. I hate foul baiting. I hate it so much. I'm going to complain about it so much this season. It's going to be awesome. Anyways, in the NFL, Jackson Dart leads this kind of hot-ish Giants team. They had a couple of falls here and there, but They've been playing really well since he was made the starter. To Denver, obviously not the easiest place to play. Going into the fourth quarter, 19-0. The Broncos offense just totally shattered this game. Dart and the Giants offense looked pretty good. And then disaster occurred. Somehow the Broncos win this game 33-32. They end up taking victory from the clutches of the Giants, and they scored all 33 of those points in the fourth quarter, the most scored by any team that had been shut out in the first three quarters in NFL history. Scoring 33 points in an NFL game is hard. Try doing it in one quarter. It's impossible. Apparently not, because it happened. And it was a crazy sequence of events. It was a lot of good Broncos defense, a lot of very nice passing from Bo Nix down the stretch, just chunk play after chunk play to get him down the field very quickly, including the game-winning drive. He had a couple of just really solid passes, the last one being the Cortland Sutton down the sideline. But he didn't get out of bounds. They ran, they spiked the ball, 2 seconds left, setting up Will Lutz for about a 40-yard field goal to win the game. And then Jackson Dart also threw an interception to kind of give them a possession beforehand in order to get it close. So it was a game that could have been put away multiple times. They had almost a three-possession lead going into the fourth quarter. You just can't let a game like that slip out of your hands, and yet they did, which is rather unfortunate. I said almost three possession. It was three possession. 19 points is literally three possessions. Um, and then another unfortunate kind of thing that happened in this game, the Giants ended up releasing their kicker. I don't even know this guy's name, Jude McAtomney. I didn't even know that guy was a kicker. I don't know where he came from. Um, but alas, and he missed two extra points in this game, both of which were not contested or anything like that. And there was like a crazy stat that was like, this is the first kicker to miss two extra points, neither of which are blocked. And then their team loses by exactly 1 point. I was like, okay. Um, Kind of cherry picking a lot of things together to make this stat. But obviously unfortunate he makes either of those. They go into overtime or they win the game. And then after Will Lutz's game-winning field goal, Broncos linebacker Dre Greenlaw started chasing a referee, Brad Allen, and verbally threatened him in some way. I'm not sure the exact words that were said as he tried to leave the stadium. He is going to be suspended for this upcoming game against Dallas this week without pay. It was already appealed and already denied. So it was kind of weird. You see Will Lutz kick the kick, everyone's celebrating, and then you kind of see a flag happen in the background, and it's like, wait, what is that? And I guess that's when Dre Greenlaw is chasing him. Trey Greenlaw, by the way, just came back from being on IR to start the season, so not the best way to start, and not the best way to end as the Rockets lose by one in double OT in
I
OKC.
was tracking it. When you told me he had made one free throw, I actually knew that he made the second one, but I didn't want to give that away. Um, and I was like, please, Rockets, get one more shot off. I am hoping for you that that gets avenged in the Western Conference Finals because it seems like it was an awesome game. Uh,
Yeah.
for Rockets team still figuring out who their pieces are. Per ESPN, my last little note on Broncos Giants as you weep silently for the audio listeners. There's tears. There's not tears. I'm heartbroken too. I wanted that for you so bad. Uh, the Broncos snapped a streak, quote, in which NFL teams had won 1,602 consecutive games when leading by 18 points in the final 6 minutes of a game. Cherry picked stat. Who? Um, but nonetheless, I mean, such a startling number of games for that to be the case. Again, not the most useful stat, but still an insane turn of events. And yeah, truly a game for the ages. I was in the baggage claim with my bag, tracking this game and Packers Cardinals at the same time, which is our next game up on our recap. So I'll jump right into that. Packers beat the Cardinals in Arizona 27-23. Cardinals fumbling away a lead late, allowing the Packers back in. The one thing I can tell for sure about this game, Micah Parsons had 3 sacks, which is the kind of disruption you trade the farm for and then extend a player for. And in a close scoring game like this, you can't help but wonder how one individual player's dominance might have made the difference for a Packers team that was lagging behind the Cardinals for much of the game, as I understand.
Yeah, I'll point out that Trey McBride has as many touchdown catches from 2 games of Jacoby Brissett as 38 games or something like that from Kyler Murray. So,
Yeah, not a great look for the Cardinals to have a backup quarterback arguably playing more competitive games these last few weeks than your supposed starter. Um, I I have a sneaking suspicion we may not be seeing too much more of Kyler in Arizona. I can't help but wonder whether they deal him at some point.
QB
Yeah,
deals are
from what
hard.
say that again.
QB deals are hard. Trading starting quarterbacks to make a lot of money is not always easy.
No doubt. But you just got to imagine at some point, something's got to give for that squad. It looks like headed into quarter four, Cardinals holding a 7 point lead. Green Bay puts up 14 in the final frame to the Cardinals three, and that gives them the win there. Consequential in terms of NFC standings. I don't know how much I can tell you about the course of the game, but when I arose from my slumber thousands of feet in the air, it was to savor roughly the first half of Commanders and Cowboys. Cowboys doubling up the Commanders 44-22.
Can
Um,
I point out real quick, Cardinals, before we totally move on? I think Martin Harrison Jr. left with the concussion.
yeah, another just tough blow for a player who has had a very up and down season there. I'm curious if he was having a good. I mean, 2 receptions, 58 yards. So clearly he was moving the sticks on a few of those catches you'd hope. But um, headed back to Cowboys Commanders here. Part of the reason for that score, Jaden Daniels injured his hamstring and left in the third quarter. Tough blow for the defensive line for the Commanders as well as defensive end Dorrance Armstrong suffered a season-ending industry injury. So not only are they now potentially not going to have Jaden Daniels for a huge contest against the Chiefs next week, but they also lose a key defensive piece long term. From what I saw, it just really didn't seem like the Commanders had a lot of offensive momentum. Cowboys able to hit a few nice plays and just kind of take advantage of the Commanders' ineptitude. This was a much closer game at half. I was a little surprised when I saw they had run it all the way up to 44, but the Cowboys just made a meal of it, just a little more efficient, and then that ended up becoming a breakaway, especially with the QB out, and then apparently, I don't believe I saw this play, but there was a pick six by Deron Bland to extend the score here. So at halftime, the game is already 27-15, and the Cowboys just continue to pull away. While the Commanders offensively sputter and can't keep up, definitely shakes up our perception of the NFC East if the Commanders and Cowboys continue to play at these respective levels.
Yeah, the Cowboys every now and then have a little stretch like this where they just look like the best offense of all time, and I just wonder how long that will last. Dak has really been slinging it. CeeDee Lamb, of course, came back. George Pickens was fine. Jake Ferguson continues to be the goated tight end in fantasy this year because he's just getting so many targets and gets like a touchdown every game. Um, I have him, by the way. And yeah, the offense looks unstoppable. Even Javante in the backfield looks pretty good. So we'll see if they can put up 44 every game. I mean that the defensive issues they've had so far this season are not going to matter as much. But you mentioned names like Deron Bland who came back, which is exciting.
Yeah, Javante had some real pop and yeah, the Cowboys are the ultimate glass cannon of the NFL. Uh, Paper thin defense, explosive offense. If the offense isn't firing at all cylinders, the defense gets shattered. That's a recipe for failure. So I don't know if I believe in the Cowboys as a like true contender this year by any means, but they might sneak into a wild card spot. And considering the vibes headed into the season, I think that's an achievement.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at our last game of
Wait,
relevance
you
for
can't
this week.
skip my post game.
Oh, is this a trivia? Is this a
It's a
trivia thing?
trivia. Yeah, who did the Cowboys activate off of IR, ready to play this upcoming week against the Broncos? One of my underrated pickups of the offseason, I believe.
Underrated pickup
I
of
think
the
we talked about it
offseason.
way back in like episode 1 or 2. I'd be surprised if you remember. It's a receiver. Does that help?
Oh, receiver. Okay. Let me cook on receiver. Um, I'm trying to think of like guys we like at receiver who are number three or lower on the list. Guys, can you give
Former
me a
Panther.
former Panth? Oh, is this Jonathan Mingo?
Jonathan
Oh
Mingo is
my
back,
God.
baby. He's back.
Well, he wasn't an
High-powered
offseason move because
offense
he
just
was
became.
traded last season, but gotta love Jay
Yeah, yeah,
Mingo
yeah.
coming back in a big spot here. That's a great trivia question. I love that. Yeah, honestly, CeeDee Lamb can sit a few weeks if he wants because the real engine of the offense will be back on the field. Oh
Yes,
boy.
sir.
Oh, here's a trivia question. What round pick did they give up for Mingo?
Oh, geez. Sixth?
Oh, you wish it was a fourth rounder, baby.
Oh, that's higher than I wish it was. Yeah, I feel like I do remember that, and I just didn't want it to be true. But um, let's go.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey, actually, it was a pick swap. They got a seventh alongside him, so
let's
I guess it's a
go.
great trade, actually. Okay, Niners, Falcons. This was
Yes.
Sunday Night Football, SNF. 20-10 Niners over Falcons. The Falcons just could not get it going offensively. And Christian McCaffrey was able to give them enough. They were praising Christian McCaffrey nonstop in the broadcast. So I guess he was the reason they were smoking everybody. And from what I saw at the end of the game, the Falcons just really couldn't get the ball rolling. Uh, After the game, the Falcons released wide receiver Ray McLeod the third.
I like Ray Ray. I like him,
I'm
man.
suppressing a mean joke about Ray's name, and I will instead just say that it was revealed defensive end Bryce Huff for the Niners injured his hamstring and will miss some time. Reclamation project, formerly of the Eagles, who signed into a big contract after he left the Jets as sort of a backup pass rusher who was highly efficient. Doesn't give the Eagles much in that first season, so went to the Niners to rehabilitate his career. Now we'll be rehabilitating a hamstring for the next few weeks, waiting to come back.
Yeah, and it's of course worth mentioning that they are already without Nick Bosa for the season, and somebody else that's name is escaping me as I try to look it up right now.
Fred Warner.
Not yes, Fred Warner at the linebacker position. Teron Jackson, that's who it was. Uh,
Gotcha.
Edge rusher also out. So a lot of defensive woes for the Niners. Yet they keep churning victories with Mac Jones at QB. Doesn't matter. They still look like a team. No Ricky Pearsall. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I have Christian McCaffrey fatigue. I'm just I'm tired of it.
Did
I'm
you
just kind
watch
of
the
tired of it.
post-game broadcast from this game, by the way?
No, I almost never watch post-game broadcasts because I don't care about them. But please
Hey,
inform
good
me.
good for you. I did try to stay and get on the post-game for Monday Night Football, but because they did a second game rolling in, they weren't going to do it until halftime. And so they kicked everyone out from the stadium. But it was National Running Backs Day, apparently. And so it was like, who's going to be the running back of the day, CMC or Bijan? And then they
Yeah, yeah,
had
yeah.
the
I did see that during the broadcast. I talked about that.
did they show the ugly purple jackets that they were going to give to that they gave to a defender, one of the linebackers who stepped up. I want to say it was like Bethune or something for the Niners, and then one of their O linemen whose name eludes me, and then CMC. I'll put in the just ugliest purple jackets. I think you should look this up and
Okay.
understand fully.
Yeah.
Just look up like National Running Back Day jacket. It was just ugly. They gave him a chain. I thought the chain was kind of fun, but this like magenta
Oh yeah.
purple
It's
disaster.
like a Hugh Hefner robe.
Yeah, it's like it's like an uncomfortable piece of clothing. Uh,
Weird.
I don't necessarily fully agree with what Barstool is up to, but the headline NBC tried to tell us it was National Running Backs Day with under 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter of Sunday Night Football feels very punchy. And yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think CMC didn't look hyped up. Um, Anyway, it was a stupid segment. Moving on to the
Bijan's really
bogus
the only
games.
thing on the Falcons that mattered on offense.
Bijan, oh, for sure. I mean, Penix has had good games. This just wasn't one. And just seems like they're a hot and cold team right now until they get more consistent. Hard to trust them. Their best games are suffocating, and their worst games, they look suffocated. So,
Remember when they beat the Bills?
1 week ago,
Oh, and also when they got blown out by 30 points by the Panthers? I
who,
still don't get what's happening with this
who
team.
is this
I
team?
have no clue.
Falcons, talk to us, please. Um, Jerry Seinfeld needs to know. Uh, let's just hop into the bogus games super fast. I know I've been pushing us through it, but here's the thing: these games weren't interesting or particularly watchable. Starting off with a bit of a palindromatic score here: Patriots 31 at Titans 13. Titans jump out to an early lead, look down at their uniform, realize they weren't the Patriots, and then subsequently rolled over. The Titans post game, wide receiver Tyler Lockett requested to be released, and mercifully for him, it was granted by the team. Does not feel like a player the team needs right now. Kind of reminds me of Keenan Allen with the Bears last year, where, yeah, he might still be a serviceable guy, but he's getting in the way of some younger folks, potentially getting some minutes, and also not how he wants to end his career.
Yeah, I imagine he'll
Just,
just go to a team that matters.
yeah.
So,
I would, this screams to me like Chiefs practice squad, something like that, and then they elevate him in week 13 through the playoffs or something. Um,
I will say for us for this game, because it's for you in our league and it's me in my other league, Travion Henderson, 3 snaps played.
um, which is a yikes because I very well may start him this week with both of my top running backs on bye.
I
I
started him
knew
this week. That just happened.
no, no,
So
oh,
they were playing the
misery.
Titans, Jared.
I know.
Also,
I
in that
understand.
league, after trading Bijan, I have ETN, Travion Henderson, and Tony Pollard. So I'm doomed.
Tony
I'm doomed.
Pollard.
That's my 3 running backs in that league.
I fell for the Tony Pollard nonsense last year. I think I had Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, and then I got some sense.
Yeah,
Man,
tough.
Titans just making the Cardinals look worse and worse for the fact that they beat them. Uh, Now let's talk about my guy. I coined this nickname in text with Damon. I need to start using it so it aggregates and becomes his nickname. Dylan Gabriel leads the Browns to a 31-6 drubbing of Miami in a windy day in Cleveland. 25-point win is exactly what you want to see if you're this Browns team over an awful, awful Miami squad. And Dylan, yeah, he was 13 of 18, 116 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, 2 sacks for 14 yards, and a QBR of 23.2. That is your future Cleveland Browns Hall of Famer. Um, Quinshon Judkins, for all the pop he got as the engine of this offense, had 25 carries for 84 yards, and
Yeah,
his
not
long was
efficient.
46. So
Yeah.
the other 24 carries, went for what? 38 yards? How did they get 31 points in this game?
I'll tell
What
you how.
happened?
I watched Tua Tagovailoa throw a ball from the back of his end zone, about to get sacked, right into the hands of a Browns defender with absolutely nobody else around. And then that guy fell down at the 2, and then Judkins got a rushing touchdown the next play. So,
That makes sense. Of course, they didn't just score the pick six.
yeah,
They stumbled like cartoons. Yeah, a continually strong performance from them. I am looking at the Cleveland defensive roster here. I had no idea there was a player named Miles Harden, spelled the same way as Miles Garrett on this team, but it's got to be tough to be another defensive Miles on this roster.
tough blow.
Trivia for you: what is the QBR for Tua Tagovailoa in this
Is
game?
0 the lowest?
I think so.
I'm gonna go with
Let me see. Lowest,
1.6.
lowest passer rating of 0.
I was like, can I go
Um,
negative? Like, I
well, I
don't know.
guess
It's
QBR. Someone has gotten point 0.8. So I guess it's possible to go. You said 1.1.
I said 1.6, which is criminally low, but God, good
Um,
God.
Sadly, it was 3.3. So
Oh
really,
man, that's pretty
Quinn Ewers
bad.
in relief, former UT quarterback,
Yeah.
21.3. So yeah, DG
Let's
had the
go.
highest QBR of the day. Just a miserable unit over in
Oh my
Miami.
God.
I want to
You
lump
know,
this together with the next game on the list here, if you don't mind, and then we can talk about both these games. I just super fast have a point I want to make
yeah, go
in
ahead.
conjunction with Bears 26 over Saints 14. Former head coach Dennis Allen beating his team, the Saints, as the DC of the Bears was a big narrative coming out of this game. Saints unfortunately had their running back Kendre Miller go on season-ending IR alongside safety or wow corner, wow, center. I saw a C and got just confused in every direction. Center, Eric McCoy goes to season ending IR. What I wanted to mention with both of these teams, the Browns and the Bears look better than the Browns right now, but I think the Bears and Browns were both playing teams that were at or below their level, and they handled them comfortably. And if you're looking for optimism as a Browns fan, and if you're looking for reasons for positivity about this recent win streak for the Bears, it's that you're beating the teams that are being lumped in with you or used to be lumped in with you, right? Browns Dolphins could have gone either way. Instead, the Browns took full control of that game. Yeah, weird conditions, but you want to be on this side of a 25-point win over another awful team. Bears, you want a comfortable 12-point win over the Saints if you're trying to prove that your winning streak isn't a fluke. So that was just my shared point. I feel like these are two results that speak well to the teams in the respective positions that they're at. But would love your thoughts on these two barn burner matchups for the ages.
I don't have a ton of thoughts. I'm going to save kind of some of my Dolphins thoughts for our preview later because I have something I want to say, but I want to save it for the preview. Um, what I will say, the Dolphins might, sorry, the Jets, despite being 0-6, might not be the saddest team in the AFC East. And that is somehow, I don't know how that's possible. Um, what else was I going to say about that game? Oh, Dylan Dealing, trademark. Gotta throw the trademark on there. Gotta make sure you
Huge.
you
All
you
rights
have
reserved
that.
as well.
Right. Don't want that stolen from you, so you gotta throw that. And then yeah, I was happy for Bears victory over the Saints, happy for Dennis Allen. Again, one of those coaches that I feel like I can't tell you if he's a great coach or not, but like you look at the team and it's like, oh, what did you want that guy to do? Um, Not sure. I mean, look at the Saints this year. They don't look like a great team or anything like that. So, it's not always, I think, the coach, and they typically get the boot. First, sad for Kendre Miller for me. He's a young guy. He's been kind of, you know, um, pretty injury plagued these first couple of years. I think he also missed a majority of either last season or the season before with injury as well. And, Kamara's obviously getting up there in age. I know he said recently if he gets traded that he'll just retire because he wants to be a Saints lifer. But God, man, why do you want to be there anymore? Why not go somewhere where they can, you can have a meaningful end to your career? I get wanting to be a lifer. I respect lifers immensely, but this is not a great squad right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, if that's how he wants to end his career, good for him, and definitely a storied player in their franchise at this point. But um, that might also be a nod to the fact that he may be near the end of his career, right? If you know you've got maybe 2 years left, do you really want to pick up your life, move to another city, start all over again there just to get a couple more years of playing time as an older back? Or if you know you want to retire in 2027, just, you've built your roots in New Orleans and ride it out. Um, Either way, it is a bit of a shame to see, alongside Brees Hall, I feel like Kamara on another team would be great to see.
Yeah, Brees a little
Um,
younger, a little more time.
Oh, no
Um,
doubt. Not in the same bucket age wise, but just in terms of fun looking players who are
for
on
sure.
unfun
Shout
teams.
out DeAndre Swift. Another good game for him.
Yeah, hey, that's big for this team. If Swift can bring some balance, that'll be great. I've got a zinger for this upcoming game here.
Okay.
Uh, Chiefs 31, Raiders 0. Very fitting that the Raiders scored 0 because that's how much I have to say about this game.
Yeah, I have two things for you. One, last week I predicted Gardner Minshew would play in this game, started playing in the third quarter. Uh,
Nice.
so
No
nailed that.
Pickett? Is Pickett hurt?
Um, I don't know. Gardner Minshew is, wait, no, Gardner Minshew is the Chiefs backup.
Oh, I'm
Revenge
sorry.
game for Gardner Minshew
Oh, nice. Yeah,
against the
that's
Raiders. So that was the
started playing in the
narrative.
third quarter is tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the score was pretty much this in the third quarter. The Raiders are abysmal. Geno is abysmal. Still no Brock. They're going to buy. Hopefully he comes back healthy afterwards. Jacoby Myers was asked about a trade, and he said, if I get traded, fine, but like I just want to play good football. And then they like asked him to clarify, and he said, yeah, I still want to be traded. I don't want to be on this team. So
He
that
said I
was
said I wanted to play good football. Did you not understand what that meant?
Max
Um,
Crosby left this game with injury too, I believe. I mean, it's a tough, tough time to be a Raiders fan. Here's the trivia for you. Um, Give me your estimate of Chiefs first downs and Raiders plays on
I'll
offense, of
say
course.
32 first downs to 26 offensive plays.
30 first downs and 30 plays.
Wow. I mean, that is sad.
Yeah.
That is the one thing about that is I figured maybe the Chiefs were just like deep heaving, but once you made it a stat, I knew it was going to be something stupid. The Raiders actually may be the saddest team in the league to me. Um, right
They're
now, I
they're
think I
down
would
there.
rather be watching the Jets than the Raiders because at least the Jets are trying to invest in youth and not
Hmm.
build an insta winner around a microwaved Geno Pete Carroll connection. Um,
Sadder than the Dolphins? They're down there. They're both down there.
I mean, the Dolphins, I think, had a stink on them heading into the season. The Raiders were something new. And so it felt fresher, but it's just gotten so bad so fast. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know. At least the Dolphins are like interesting. The Raiders aren't even like an interesting kind of bad. They're just bad.
that's fair.
Uh,
Rashee Rice came back for the Chiefs as well. Had a good game, worth mentioning.
yeah, without him, this is probably an overtime, classic. But
I think
they were
without him, this game is probably 31-0. So
yeah, yeah. At worst, it's 28-0. Um, let's hop really quick. Colts 38, Chargers 24. Colts corner Travarius Ward placed on IR due to the concussion he suffered in warmups last week as part of the cursed pregame for the Colts. But 24 is a mirage for the Chargers. The Colts strangled them this
yeah,
entire game, and they just got some late love. Garbage time points.
yeah. The Colts offense is unstoppable with Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor, which is not words I ever thought would utter out of my mouth. But alas, there we go.
I have a lot of thoughts about this next game. I know it's a bogus game. I'm
I
going to give
watched the
myself.
whole thing and was so tired at the
So did I. I stayed up
end.
until 2 a.m. Eastern to watch this game for just no conceivable reason. Um, I will say, though, my dad and I were just like laughing our asses off at this game because, oh, it was so stupid. Oh, the Texans are so embarrassing right now. Seahawks
Can
27, Texans
I want to
19.
touch on this real quick. Chargers really fallen off since that 3-0 start.
I heard on Heed the Call they're on their like fifth string right tackle and sixth string left tackle, which, if
Yeah.
true, what can you do, man? What can you do?
Joe Alt said
Um,
he was going to play on Thursday, so we'll see.
Joe Alt going into the lineup honestly might be enough against the Wentz Vikings, but yeah, I feel bad for their team. It seems like so many injuries stacked up at one position detonated what looked like a super promising season, although it may have been that promise was a mirage. So with Seahawks 27, Texans 19, what were your feelings about this awful game?
Um, I have said it for 4 weeks in a row, and I'll continue to say it. JSN is so good at football. The guy is a route running machine. He had Derek Stingley on him for most of this game and was giving him the business pretty much. And Derek Stingley is a very good corner. So that's my number one takeaway. Sam Darnold is real. I've said that like every week, and it continues to be true. My Seahawks optimism prior to the season still going up, and I'm happy about that. What I'm not happy about is this Texans offense CJ Stroud is dead. His rookie year was a fluke. I don't know what happened to that guy. He looks like a shell of himself. The word I keep thinking of when I think about their offense is anemic. It's just
Mhm.
the word that comes to mind. It's just so blah. And it sucks because their defense gave them chances in this game. I mean, they had a fumble recovery in the end zone for a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, when I was
They
watching.
did.
So,
Will Anderson,
yeah.
Sam Darnold just kind of lost control going to the ground. Um, yeah, man. Oh my gosh. This game, and it was eerie because the Texans went for two following that defensive score and missed it. And so it ended up being basically the same situation as Lions Bucs. The Bucs had a failed two-point conversion that created sort of a weird 15-point margin. And that was the state of this game for most of the game. Texans score late with Woody Marks on my bench, where he will stay for eternity, the way the Texans are playing. Um, the Seahawks had four turnovers. And apparently, like 10, the stat on Rich Eisen was like four turnovers, 10 plus penalties. Just like an embarrassing night for Seattle, who controlled the entire game.
The penalties are crazy, man. I was sick of the penalties. I was like, look at the watch, fellas. How long are we gonna be here?
Houston, dwell in shame. You have made a fool of yourselves on national television. What a just mess. What a just utter mess. And then the management, where after the game, D'Amico Ryan said he instructed the kicker to kick the ball out of bounds to start the Seahawks at the 40. At this point, it was just before the 2 minute warning. They're down by 8. If they can recover the ball, they have a chance to drive and tie the game. Mercifully, they failed to, in part because the kicker kicks it inbounds, which allows them to run the clock down to the 2 minute warning on the return, leaving the Texans only 30 seconds to drive the ball down the field after they get the punt. But don't worry, the Texans will just commit a penalty on third down, which gives the Seahawks an automatic win instead.
That was a weird
Awesome.
penalty to call too, because it was like so it just didn't matter to whatever happened on the play.
Was it for like excessive like piling on the ball? Was that the
Yeah,
problem?
yeah, it was like a lineman jumped up on the pile. I don't think the whistle had been blown yet, from my understanding, but I could be wrong about that. But it was like, oh, okay, you just ended the game with that call, like that. Weird.
Maybe they did look at their watch. They were
I
like
said,
going to look at their
okay,
whistle and
guys, we
then
got to
saw
get
like,
home.
geez, 11? Oh, it's like 2 on the East Coast. We're done.
I got a wife and
Oh,
kids.
yeah, I got a life outside of this. Hey, and so do we. So let's jump right into our week 8 preview by spinning that wheel.
Spin the
Um,
wheel. Worth mentioning buy teams this week: Cardinals, Lions, Jaguars, Raiders, Rams, Seahawks. So six
um,
teams. They call this the buy Mageddon in fantasy football because good luck with your roster with all these people on buy.
I want to say Lions, Jags, and Seahawks were already ineligible for the wheel as they had already been
Yes,
discussed.
yes, we have covered all of these teams except the Rams. I think are the only team because I had the
Did we?
Raiders
Oh,
long
you did
ago
have the Raiders. I'm
and
sorry.
Cardinals as well. So yeah, I think the
Oh, you
Rams are the
did. Did you have the Thursday night Cardinals with the sand jerseys?
Yes, exactly. So
Yes.
Rams are the only team that we're omitting from the list. So we still amazing had already done five of these teams. So this time I am first because you were first last week. So let's give it a spin, give it a whirl. And while
No
we're
matter
giving
what
the
you
whirl,
hit,
remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
that's a huge plug. Huge plug in a big spot.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, interesting. Interesting one. I get Chicago Bears here, a team I do like and I'm excited about. Why I say interesting is they're playing the Ravens this week. The
Ooh,
Ravens coming out of bye, of course, have looked abysmal to start the season with all of the injuries on that roster. Hopefully, the bye gave them time to rest. Lamar Jackson will hopefully be back at quarterback, and the team can look like the team we thought they were going to be entering the season, a clear contender, a clear AFC North winner. Hopefully, they can look more like that than the Ravens of the past.
a real Chicago wins this game. A fraud Chicago loses this game. That is my point of view.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. They are on the road, worth mentioning, so we'll see how that looks. Let's see what team you get. Ah,
I'd be really amused if it ended up being the Panthers again.
well,
Um,
guess what? Guess who they play?
are they playing the Panthers?
They play the Panthers, the
Let's
Buffalo Bills.
go! Now that we've retconned reality, it's the second straight week where I got an AFC East team playing the Panthers.
Let's go.
Sorry, that was such a
Yeah.
loud scream for watching the Panthers play the Bills.
Hey, if you're excited, we're excited.
This is subtly a pretty good matchup. I think the Bills obviously losing to the Falcons last time we saw them, coming off a bye this week, going to Carolina. This matchup could be a surprise here. The Panthers have been on an absolute tear, and if they're able to pull an upset on the Bills, we suddenly need to talk about them as a real wild card threat and a definite challenge to um, the Falcons in the number two spot. Hey, by the way, and I'm sorry to just make this random comment. Do you think it's on purpose that the Panthers logo is kind of shaped like South Carolina?
I never really thought about that because I feel like I've never really thought about the shape of South Carolina and what it is. But it could be. That could be a good point. Here, you want me to do some research?
Yeah, I just South Carolina is kind of a triangle shape, with a bit of like a tail to it, and I kind of think that's
Apparently it's a coincidence, but it does look that way.
okay.
They were like,
Just
yeah,
kind
it
of a fun
does.
coincidence, I guess. Yeah. Uh, we're breaking news. We have identified the Panthers logo looks vaguely like one of the two Carolinas it represents.
I think the fan theory that apparently is that it looks like both Carolinas put together.
Okay, well, let's get some North Carolina love on the um yeah, actually it does kind of look like North too because it's got this streak to it. That's whoever designed that logo. Props to you. Um because that
So,
is relatively convincing.
but your team is the Bills. It's not the Panthers. What are you looking
Well, of
for the
course.
Bills? I think I
I,
also talked more about the Ravens than the Bears, and my team is the Bears. Um, so it's
um
fair.
no, yeah, I think Buffalo needs to come out. Panthers are a team that the Bills should beat if they're who we think they are. Um, can't afford to slip up. That'd be 3 weeks in a row now. Um, coming off two straight dropped games for the Bills. So after the Patriots, then Falcons loss, Panthers win would be a nice way to get back on track.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Let's look at the rest of the week. Do you have any games on the slate here in week 8 that you think are worth talking about for more than our one-liner?
Yeah, one that actually calls to me here, Giants Eagles looks exciting because this is the second time in 3 weeks they're playing. If I'm not
Yes,
mistaken, it
correct.
was week
Giants beat them
six.
last week.
Um, yeah, so it was Thursday night uh matchup, Eagles at New York, when Scatabo ripped his shirt off and declared relevance to the world. Obviously, Giants coming off of a heartbreaker, Eagles coming off of a get right game against the Vikings. I think this is a really interesting litmus test, right? Because these two teams were headed in opposite directions following their first matchup. Then we see the results from that second game. So, I'm really excited. I actually think this is going to be a cool one. Obviously, in the 12 o'clock window, but this might be one I split with Bills Panthers, depending on the trajectory of that game, just to see whether these two are competitive.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big game. Like you said, litmus test for both kind of coming off. Eagles coming off a comeback week, Giants coming off of a disappointing week. So we'll see what it looks like. I will go ahead and discuss a game that I think could be kind of interesting. Browns Patriots. I think the Patriots have looked so good against relatively mediocre competition, aside from that win against the Bills a couple weeks back. And I think the Browns defense provides a stern challenge for the Patriots offense. And obviously, that kind of goes vice versa. I don't think the Patriots defense is nearly as good. I don't think the Browns offense is nearly as good. But I think a tough matchup for both sides. And I'm curious, with the Browns putting up 31 against a very weak Dolphins opponent, how will they fare against this Patriots? And then will the Patriots, offense continue to stay hot against one of the better defenses in the NFL?
Yeah, that's a great pick. In a slate that stinks. We Actually, I'll say this. I think our wheel teams landed on two of the more interesting games of the week.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I can maybe drum up some intrigue for one more game.
There's one more that I care about.
Take yours first, and we'll see if mine should just be a one-liner.
Yeah, it's Cowboys at Broncos. The
Oh,
Cowboys
yeah.
offense has been so elite, and the Broncos defense, aside from giving up 32 points to the Giants, it's not like the Giants are a great football team. Is a pretty stout unit with a great reputation. So I just wonder if the Cowboys can kind of stay hot going to Denver, and the Broncos can carry that momentum coming off of a an unlikely comeback win against the Giants.
Um, yeah, no, I think that's a good one. I'll grab here just for kind of the like ooh narrative. Of course, they put it on SNF for a reason. Packers at Steelers. This is obviously an Aaron Rodgers hosting his former team. Even beyond that narrative, though, I think the Packers have these are both division leading teams. And the Packers, to me, have looked much softer than we thought they were in those first couple weeks. Granted, they're still pulling out wins, and a win is a win is a win, but they haven't done it in the dominant fashion we expected they might. And they're going up against the Steelers team that likewise has not been a dominant force all season. This feels like a game the Packers should win. Coming off of a surprising loss against the Bengals, the Steelers might be a little more motivated, especially Rodgers. Losing that duel to Flacco and hosting this game might give them a little bit of an extra edge. The loser of this game has their grip on the division either shaken or released entirely, to my understanding, with the Packers being a half game over Detroit. So this is definitely one to keep an eye on in the division races, respectively, especially with the Bengals hosting a relatively soft, relatively. With the Bengals hosting the Jets, the Bengals could suddenly be challenging for the division title um, in a matter of 2 weeks if the Steelers drop this one to the Pack. So, subtly important game for them.
Yeah, definitely important games. I just think I'm kind of bleh about both of these teams. So I was like, I'm
No,
not that
totally fair.
invested, but it is important.
When I said I had one maybe, it was actually Dolphins Falcons, and I had to talk myself out of that. So, um,
That's crazy.
and I know you had a zinger or a line for it.
Yeah,
So do you want me to take Vikings Chargers to
please,
set you
please
up?
do.
Okay.
Yes, that would be great.
Vikings, Chargers. Brian Flores gets an opportunity to literally kill a man by sending every great edge rusher straight at that fifth string right tackle. Will Justin Herbert see Friday after this Thursday night beatdown?
It's great. It's a great pull from you. I'm gonna reference a zinger, a legendary one-liner from myself that I think still applies after what we've seen from the Dolphins. Do you know what it is? Are you ready?
Hit me.
Will Mike McDaniels be fired before, during, or after this game?
Nice, nice, good callback.
Dolphins at
I,
Falcons, by the way. I didn't say the game at all. I just went right to the liner.
if I'm going to throw one in if you don't mind.
Please.
Dolphins at Falcons. The way this season's going, Dolphins 30, Falcons 0.
Yeah, there you go. That would be that wouldn't be that shocking. Um
Um, do you
yeah.
want to take Bears Ravens or we did that one? Oh, it's Jets
Yes.
Bengals next.
Yes.
Oh, good. Um, Jets Bengals. Calling it a Joe Flacco revenge game is like calling it a revenge game when you play your 2-year-old after they beat you in Connect Four.
Mm, there you go. I like that.
The
Yeah,
Jets are
Tyrod
bad.
Taylor versus Joe Flacco. Awesome.
Yeah.
What an awesome matchup there.
Actually, sorry. Um, I've got another one. Jets, Bengals. After grizzled Aaron Rodgers fails to fell the king of the old quarterbacks, journeyman Tyrod Taylor rises from wrinkled old age to seek the throne of best old quarterback.
There you go. Best old quarterback. That's quite the category. And there's a lot of them this
the
year,
the
apparently.
BOQ. That should be an award at the end of the season. The comeback player of the year, best old ass quarterback. Um,
Then DeMar Hamlin would actually have a comeback player of the year award. but
God,
alas.
that's so stupid. I can't believe they let that happen.
Okay, how about 49ers at Texans? Conspiracy theory revealed after the game when the 49ers beat the Texans by 35 points. D'Amico Ryan still have ties over there in San Francisco? Did he throw this game so they could look a little better than they really are?
Hmm. I wonder if D'Amico Ryans is the next Robert Saleh, go back after the firing situation. Um, Buccaneers, Saints. Hang on, I'm actually just seeing a tweet. Oh wow, the Saints are going to do a Buccaneers inspired alt uniform where instead of a red flag, they're a white flag.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Having a coughing fit over here. Okay, how about this? Titans at Colts. The Colts have more wins this season than the Titans and Colts combined in our preseason predictions. Yeah,
Is that true?
I think so.
God, that is
they're a
miserable.
5-win team. I think we had them at like three, and then the Titans at like
Are they a six win? They might be a six-win team
oh
right
yeah,
now. Do they
it's
have
7 weeks into the season, isn't it? Yeah, it
a
might be six and
six
one.
and one Colt?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
It would be crazy if the Colts ended up with that 16 and one record I was predicting for the Ravens.
That would be nuts.
Um, Commanders, Chiefs. Monday, Marcus Mariota mayhem.
Great.
I,
Based on the results against the Cowboys, how long until Gardner Minshew starts this game?
yeah, wait. So actually, let's add this. Okay, ready? Monday, Marcus Mariota Minshew mayhem.
Yes, yes.
Woo! Okay. That is the end of our week 8 preview. Maybe the softest slate so far. And obviously, Mageddon is going to do that, taking out half of the NFC West, actually, three-quarters of the NFC West. Um, but hey, Raiders fans, you get a break. So, uh, any last thoughts on the week to come or the week that's passed before we make a field goal here?
Not any particular thoughts about this week. I will say we are approaching the halfway point of the NFL or regular season. Perhaps some mid-season awards coming our way in the future. I don't know. That could be a thought.
Perchance we put them on some sort of tiered list.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
maybe we could take our preseason award predictions and tier list the likelihood that those predictions might come
Oh,
true.
that's a great
Um,
one.
all right, but first, I'm going to attempt an extra point in Mile High to at least send Giants Broncos to overtime. I'm gonna especially the video I recorded after the Lions game live, which got some dislike action from some real misers out there. I'm gonna subscribe. I'm gonna tell my friends and family alike. Just really get the whole community. Gonna rally around a 1940s radio and somehow play our podcast through it. Um, get excited for the NBA season by listening to Two Man Games. Some great content just dropped
Wow.
by them, and with the season starting, there's going to be plenty to
Did
talk
you
about.
listen? You said you were going to listen on the flight. Did you lie to me?
It didn't download, so I listened to the Two Heat the
Ah.
Call apps, and I was going to slide into a 3 hour banger, and then it did not download. So
And we released another one today, by the way.
I did see that. I will be playing Marvel Snap in bed for the next 2 hours, and I'll probably be listening. So uh, look
Yes,
out
guilt
for that.
tripped.
If I make this, it also counts as a made field goal for the Texans or for the Rockets in double overtime. So this is kind of
Oh,
a
that
really
would be very
impactful
helpful for
shot.
me. Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm lining up. I'm lining up.
I got the poster up.
Kick is up.
I saw it ricochet off of the camera and over your head, which is crazy.
That's not what it did, but we'll say that's what happened.
That I saw something happen. Like something did something not fly over you?
It hit the side of my screen and then landed on my side here. Um,
Oh. Uh, So a doink, but I will determine that the doink was in. Therefore, the kick is good.